Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we're going to head out to the state of Minnesota. As we know, there was a horrific shooting at Annunciation Catholic School on August 27th. We're not going to focus on the shooting. We're not going to focus on the shooter. What we are going to focus on is the legislative and political response to that, because Governor Tim Walz, you all remember him, is asking for a special session, get the legislature back in session so they can pass large swaths of civilian disarmament legislation. Amongst them, the governor is promising an assault weapon ban. This may prove to be one of the greatest opportunities to advance Second Amendment rights in the history of the country, and we're going to explain why. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about why an assault weapon ban in Minnesota could be bigger than imagined. Okay, hey, before we get going too far down the road we're going down, want to know that all the research for today's video was done at GroundNews. Why is that? Well, because they're going to scour 50,000 news sources. They're going to weed through all the bias distribution and the headline manipulation and get me the information so that I can make up my own mind. What a concept. And one of the cool features they got is this blind spot detector, which will actually show you stories that are being reported disproportionately why one side of the political spectrum. It really helps you understand where the other side is coming from. Now listen, if you want to unlock all of the features that GroundNews has to offer, you can go to ground.news/Washington or scan this QR code right here, and you're going to receive 40% off a Vantage Plan. That's going to give you every single feature that GroundNews has to offer. So if you're finally ready to be treated like a big boy or big girl by mainstream media, go ahead and visit my good friends at ground.news/Washington today. Okay, America, we are going to go back to August 27th of this year. Annunciation Catholic School, a deranged individual shot the place up while children were praying in the church, killing 2 and injuring 18 more. Now, despite the fact that the shooter had done a manifesto and scribbled all their intentions and motivations all over their firearms and magazines, mainstream media is still searching for a motive. Obviously, many people, including Governor Tim Walz, believes that the motive was simply that they were armed with a firearm. And somehow or another, firearms make us go crazy. And for that reason, Governor Walz and many of his colleagues on the Democratic side in Minnesota believe that the best way to prevent these problems in the future is to disarm thousands and thousands of lawful Minnesota residents. So the governor is calling for a special session to pass large swaths of gun control legislation, including an assault weapon ban. The governor on September 2nd was quoted as saying, "If Minnesota lets this moment slide and we determine that it's okay for little ones not to be safe in a school environment or a church environment, then shame on us. I'm going to call lawmakers back." Now, of course, anytime we start talking about grandiose political plans, we always have to take a look as, does the state legislature actually have the will to do it? And the best place to start is to simply look at the math. Well, here's the deal with Minnesota. If ever there was a state on a political standpoint that was evenly divided, it is the state of Minnesota. Because currently in the House of Representatives, there are 67 Republicans and 66 Democrats. Now, that also has a vacancy because let's remember that Representative Melissa Hortman was tragically murdered herself. That leaves one vacancy, and there is a special election set on September 16th. This is in District 34B. If that district remains in the same political party as it currently was, we will have an even split of 67-67 in the Minnesota House of Representatives. In the Senate, the current numbers are 33 Democrats and 32 Republicans. So is the math there for this type of legislation to pass? Yeah, the math is there. It's going to take everything to come together for the Democrats in a perfect storm, and they can't have any dissenters. But then by the same token, we see in many states Republicans who are willing to join in on this legislation. So this does have a distinct possibility of becoming law. Now, Minnesota, I don't want you to take this personally, but my advice to the state of Minnesota, who's thinking about passing an assault weapon ban, is as follows. Do it. Do it. I'm begging you, do it. Why? Do I have something against the residents of Minnesota? No, I've actually spent some time in Minnesota. I think the people there are absolutely fantastic. I think it's a beautiful state. Here's why I want to see the state of Minnesota do it, because it all comes down to this little thing that we've called here at Washington Gun Law jurisdictional bubbles. And what we're going to focus on today is the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, every time we're sitting there reading a challenge to an assault weapon ban in some states saying, oh, no, this is perfectly okay, and you see the same thing with magazine bans, one of the things the proponents of those laws will always point out is that there's no circuit split, that every single circuit that's ever decided this issue has said, hey, this is perfectly okay. Well, that's right, because when we take a look at the circuit map, we can see why things in the Ninth Circuit or the First Circuit or the Second Circuit or the Seventh Circuit are so awry. We can also see why cases such as this never come out of the Fifth Circuit, never come out of the 11th Circuit, and for the most part have never come out of the 8th Circuit. But now suddenly the state of Minnesota is talking about going full civilian disarmament. Why would that be an opportunity for us? Well, because we know there will be immediate legal challenges, and those legal challenges will end up in the 8th Circuit. Now, I want you to just take a look at the states right now that comprise the 8th Circuit. You have both the Dakotas, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, and Minnesota. So, with the exception of Minnesota, most of the other states have a tendency to see the Second Amendment the way the Founding Fathers intended it. But when you take a look at the 8th Circuit and the current makeup of the bench itself, you will see that, candidly, I'm not sure an assault weapon ban could even withstand a 3-judge panel review, let alone a full en banc panel. Because when we look at the circuit, we know that there are 11 judicial positions there. 6 of those judges were appointed by President George W. Bush. 1 of them was appointed by President Obama, and an additional 4 have been appointed by President Trump, which means currently in the 8th Circuit, if we're going to use who the president is that appointed them to that position as the barometer for where they come from politically, there is a 10-1 conservative advantage, which is why I say it's almost impossible, again, provided that they all stick to the way we see the Second Amendment, but it is virtually impossible for a piece of gun control legislation to even withstand a 3-judge panel review, let alone a full en banc review. Let us also remember that this is a circuit that routinely does not have to deal with these issues because every single state, now with the exception of Minnesota, is not the kind of state to pass broad civilian disarmament legislation. And so what the opportunity is similar to what we're seeing in the Third Circuit, with a sudden shift in the politics in the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, and yet having states like New Jersey sitting underneath it. But truthfully, if you want to take a look at the mathematical possibilities of getting a ruling from a U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals stating that assault weapon bans are per se unconstitutional, that would be a first. The highest mathematical probability of that occurring occurs in the 8th Circuit, but it requires Minnesota to go ahead and pass an assault weapon ban. Now, I'm not certain when the special session may occur, if it occurs at all. It likely will be sometime after September 16th, because there will be a special election that day to replace Ms. Hortman in District 34B. And if it, again, stays politically to the same party, we will end up with a 67-67 split in the Minnesota House of Representatives. But Governor Walz, you are the gift that keeps on giving. So again, our advice, do it. We dare you. Go ahead and do it. Listen, we're going to carefully watch what happens in Minnesota. If a special session is called and they have a bill kicking around Minnesota, we will cover it so you will be the first to know about it. Listen, in the meantime, if you guys got any questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. But if you don't, that's okay. That information is down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, all you got to do is click on that link right there and tell us all about it. If you want to subscribe to the monthly newsletter, the ability to do that is down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.